Today we've got a good one while we're waiting for people to filter in here. We're going to be continuing our exploration of the sample pack, which a lot of folks have been downloading, and we're excited to get those in the hands of people. They have been people have been asking for this for a while.
A long time. Yeah.
You know, we've had the free trial for a while, where you can actually just like download the latest theme pack. Right now it's Howl. Thanks, guys. Thank you for confirming. But people wanted to see more than that because we're more than just the themes, right? It's a whole system. So we wanted to come up with some way to kind of show that off. So if you're already a member, and we know a lot of members do watch, which we love, this might be something you could share with a friend.
Definitely share with a friend. You actually can share the link in your homeschool groups, wherever they are, on Facebook, on, gosh, back in the day, ours were on Yahoo, if you can believe it. It's been a long time. I know Groups.io has a lot of meetings out there. We're in some Groups.io forums ourselves. Google Groups, I think, is still going. So wherever you are and you have homeschool friends or
WhatsApp. We have people who use WhatsApp.
Yes. I was going to say, gosh, David. Yes, WhatsApp too. And here I am having like a little mini allergy attack just as we start this new episode. I'm like, I'm going to have to go blow my nose or something in a minute. Okay, but what I was going to say is wherever parents are to be found that have children your age is where we would love for you to share this sample pack. And what is the URL of it?
We have that. Hold on.
Oh, we have the URL. Oh, awesome. Look at this.
Look at that.
Magic.
Oh,
so, so please just jot down childoftheredwoods.com/sample and share that. I was going to say you could share it in any basic parenting groups as well. You don't have to just find Montessori people. Recently, I've realized like a lot of parents are on Nextdoor now.
I know.
And some people are getting off Facebook. Instagram is a little bit harder to share on, but it is possible to share a link there. So wherever you are, we would really appreciate it if you would get this out. It does initially seem to be very popular for us. David says, like, all of a sudden, a lot of people are wanting to download this. And I don't blame them. It's very cool. There's 3 lessons inside that show a really good representation of our constellation themes. And then you also get a little peek into what the foundational lessons look like in this last section back here. This is the part that is not included in the free trial.
That's right.
And so I know a lot of you have been joining the free trial hoping to get a glimpse of the foundational content as well. And it's not there. It's just the way we have our member site set up. We are still working on a way to allow limited access to the whole thing. I know a lot of you want to see the whole curriculum. It's really hard to show you the whole curriculum because there's just so many lessons and just the way the member site is set up. But David and I actually selected what we feel like is a good representation of the way the lessons are written inside the foundational curriculum. And so we give you an example of a level 1 lesson, level 2, level 3, level 4, all the way up to level 6. And so the subjects that we give you examples of are reading and writing, sensorial, practical life. We have a level 3 lesson example because we wanted to feature one that was a little more complicated. We've got a math and a life science, and later on in a future episode, we're going to go dig into that specifically and share with you what those lessons look like and kind of give you a preview of what it's like inside the whole complete curriculum. But today, we want to focus on one lesson in particular.
That's right.
It's going to be a math lesson, and we're going to also talk about some questions that our members have requested.
And I see, in fact, the question asker is in our audience today and says that the sample pack will be great for the communities in India.
Perfect.
Which is great. We know that a lot of folks are interested in seeing it all, and we can't really show the whole thing because the way that we decided to do our curriculum was it's all instantly available. It's not like a thing where you have to buy another piece, another piece, another piece, and you kind of get nickel and dime. That's not the way we want to do it. But the downside of it is we don't really have a good way to give you a complete experience. But the sample pack should do a pretty good trick.
It should. That's right.
All right.
So, and finally, is Mr. Bunny going to be hopping by today?
Oh, yes.
I think he
Mr.
will.
Bunny, a question has come in specifically for Mr. Bunny, and I think we'll have to answer that today. Yeah,
Okay,
so
perfect. So if you've got someone who wants to see Mr. Bunny today, might want to stick around to the end.
that's right. Or if you're watching the replay, it'll be at the end of the episode.
That's right.
Okay.
Okay, so let's get right into the lesson that we're featuring from our sample pack today. We talked in our last episode about the lesson about apples, a perfectly polished apple, which is a practical life lesson. Now, I will be honest with you, David. Just about everybody who's heard of Montessori has heard of practical life lessons or done a practical life lessons. It's one of the easiest, most accessible types of lessons to find out there.
Sure.
You can just go Googling, find a myriad number of practical life lessons.
Yeah.
It's just not that hard. What is less accessible, I think, to people who are really trying to learn the Montessori method are some of the more academic subjects,
Yes.
where we go deeper and it's a little more sequential. And so here we are featuring a lesson that is called Ladybug Leaf Counting from our Ladybug theme.
Which we did, I think, in April. Was that
Yes,
right? Yeah.
which we did in April of this year. And it was such a cute theme. Of course, Montessori themes are more than just cute. We love them if they're cute, but...
Cute as a bonus.
So cute, I know. But also, we got to really deep dive into a lot of life science lessons here.
Yeah.
We did the whole life cycle of a ladybug inside that theme pack.
Parts of a ladybug.
We did some cool art activities. I know a lot of our members were exploring symmetries.
Oh, yes.
We talked about, we did a little bit of storytelling as usual,
This is the one where we did the aphids counting. Oh, wait, no, that's not the one we're doing here, though.
We actually did a whole, math was actually heavily featured in the Ladybug theme because, and this is just one of the lessons that we did for math. But we chose it for our sample pack because it's actually a really good representation of the kinds of math activities you could expect from a constellation theme math lesson.
Yeah, that's right.
And for those of you who are brand new to Child of the Webwoods and you don't know, we have about over 2,000 foundational math lessons that are in the Montessori sequence of progression for learning Montessori math. And we take those foundational lessons and apply the concept to a theme. And then it just makes it fun and exploratory and, just a way to integrate in Montessori math into your daily lives so much easier, kind of in a playful way. And it's not that we're not also giving foundational math lessons with just the beads themselves. But our job is we're constantly thinking, how do we make these beads more enticing and interesting and just kind of feel more natural and playful so that they're just like part of your lives around you and you're constantly using them. When we were homeschooling our own kids and they were little, it's very easy just to let those Montessori math manipulatives just sit on the shelf. And then you've got it in the back of your head because a lot of us have math hang-ups.
Yeah.
Myself included. And so it tends to be one of those subjects that many of us just want to avoid. We're like, oh yeah, I need to give a math lesson. Oh, but you know what would be so much more fun? Learning about ladybugs. Let's do that instead. And there's nothing wrong with learning about ladybugs. This is awesome. There's so much math in there already. But what if we were to say, hey, you know what? We're going to make that point of entry easier for you. Like you're already wanting to learn about the cute little ladybugs. They're so adorable and fun. And let's figure out how to get those math manipulatives out and into your child's prepared environment in a way that feels easy and there's less pressure on you, where everything is really scripted and you're in a routine and a flow. So that's part of this lesson. The other part, do you want to talk about the word problems?
Sure.
And Math Minute?
Yeah,
little
so the
bit?
other thing that we tried to emphasize, and thanks,
I'll be
Crystal,
right
for
back.
you said you shared this in your Facebook and WhatsApp homeschool groups. Thank you so much. You know, life is better with friends, and that is also true for homeschooling. So we love when people recommend friends to Child of the Redwoods, and then they get to do that journey together. Yeah, so in addition to learning so our math curriculum is going to go from recognizing numbers and conceptualizing quantity all the way through division and into early algebra over the course of the 6 levels. And in this case, we are focusing on, let's see, this child is practicing counting, number recognition, and one-to-one correspondence with fine motor skills. So we'll show you the lesson in a minute. Now, to make these more meaningful, especially for kids who are at the levels 4, 5, or 6, we always include, or as often as we can, we include word problems. And so, for example, this word problem says, a gardener sees 3 ladybugs on one leaf and 4 ladybugs on another leaf. How many ladybugs are there in total? So this is an addition problem. What does the child need to do? They need to first recognize what type of function they're going to be asked to perform, in this case addition. So they have to parse through the language. They have to think about the function. They have to find the variables. In this case, it's 3 ladybugs and 4 ladybugs. And then they have to perform the operation. There's a lot of complex things that are happening in there. But this is exactly what you can expect a 6-year-old or a 7-year-old to start doing. And one of the best ways you can do that when they're little is to give them a math minute. And so you can use these as part of the lesson itself, or you can use these and put them in a little bag or stick them in a little box or in a shelf or somewhere. And every day you pull one out and you do a math minute activity. It's a great way to insert mathematics into your everyday life. If you're using our curriculum, those word problems are going to be matched to the theme that you're working on. Let's say in this case, ladybug. And honestly, once you've done a few of them, you can go off and make up your own. You can do any variation. So and that first one is a gardener sees 3 ladybugs on one leaf and 4 ladybugs on another. You could give that same problem in a few, go through. I think we have 10 in this case. Get to the 11th day and you want to do another one. Use that same math problem, but write different numbers. I mean, that's just, the practice is what matters. So
Yeah, I
maybe
actually...
they do 6 ladybugs and 5 ladybugs.
Right.
Or they do 3 numbers if your kids are ready for it, right? One leaf has 6, one leaf has 5, another leaf has 5. So they have to recognize that it's addition, and now they have to deal with 3 different numbers. It makes it a little more complicated. It's pretty exciting. And as Aubrey was saying, it feels more accessible, or it can feel more accessible because it is tied to that theme. The other thing I like about our approach, why thematic learning is so important, why we used it in the classroom, and why it's the center of our work here at Child of the Redwoods, is that it is an attempt to bring mathematics and other academic subjects to life in a way that is realistic, right? So you go out into the world, let's say you're going to build a fence, you have to know how many boards to buy. Well, that's math, and it's going to be some kind of math based on like addition or multiplication. Like a board is this wide, and I have this much space to cover, so I've got to divide that space by the number of the boards. That is a practical application of mathematics that a person might actually use in his or her everyday life. That's more meaningful if we can replicate that in our work as we're studying than, let's say, just showing them a problem that says 28 feet divided by 6 inches, right? 28 feet divided by 6 inches is useful to learn, but putting it in the context of an actual real problem is where we actually find math comes alive. And the same goes for reading, grammar, the sciences, anything like that. And for a child, when we can construct those meaningful experiences by putting them in the context of fun themes. So in this case, we have ladybug.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I've just been doing a little bit of
Stacy
cutting.
says, math lessons are on my first challenge list for lower L. Math is scary for a lot of us.
Yeah.
I mean, both of us are included in that list. As I've gotten older, I've gotten less anxious around math, but when I was younger, and a student especially, I was terrified of it. It just felt so overwhelming. I think I don't know, I know they've done studies on that, but there's a huge percentage of people in school who are afraid of mathematics because it just feels so hard. And putting it in these kind of word problems and putting it in a more realistic way sort of takes some of its power away, and it makes it more like a puzzle. So you can start thinking about it not as like a scary math problem, but more like a game or a puzzle, and you're using rules, and those rules are the rules of mathematics. And that actually, once you kind of put that in a mindset and using these kinds of techniques, it really can help a lot for a lot of people. Yeah. All right.
Yes. So what I wanted to say while you were talking about how to modify these
Yeah.
is that they are actually really easily modifiable. David talked about just substituting another number instead. And that's a great way to do it. Something that I like doing with these is just adding a number on one side or the other. And so you're kind of keeping the same problem, but you're making it harder by increasing the number. So instead of a gardener sees 3 ladybugs on one leaf and 4 ladybugs on another leaf, which is too easy for a lot of our lower L aged kids, you know. So you just put a 1 in front of the 3. You know, a gardener sees 13 ladybugs on one leaf and 14 ladybugs on another leaf. Or you put a 1 on the other side. A gardener sees 31 ladybugs on one leaf and 41 ladybugs on another leaf. How many ladybugs are there in total? Like, you're just gonna, you know, scale up when your child needs things scaled up. And you can do the same with some of these harder problems that have bigger numbers. You can scale down as well. It might be harder to scale down a multi-step word problem than it is to scale up an easier problem. But if your child is just, you know, on the easiest problems, you don't need to do very many of them anyway, you know, or you would just want to do variations on the same problem.
That's right.
So if your child's learning addition and they're, you know, at the level where they're learning single digit addition with manipulatives, maybe you have some manipulatives that they're adding with concretely, and that's where you would start with this. You just might do variations on the same word problem and make up your own, just rewrite it, you know, or print it out several times, just substitute in several, just different numbers in that are easy.
Yeah, and you could even expand this further. You could say a gardener sees 3 ladybugs on every leaf, and there are 4 leaves. Now you've turned it into a multiplication problem. But you're taking the same basic step. Now we give you a bunch of these problems, so you don't have to start out with that. You can just work from what we have. But once you kind of get creative, and if your kids are really loving it, and let's say you don't say a gardener, you say maybe the name of their favorite stuffy or them. So Mr. Bunny sees 3 ladybugs, that kind of thing. It really gets fun. And that's a way you can bring math to life, and using kind of that same template format that we've set for you to spice it up or to make it harder or easier depending on the age of the child.
Now what we're actually doing here is we're making math meaningful for the kids. So it's great to do the basic Montessori math lessons. Yes, those are the foundations. You know, you're going to use your stamp game, you're going to use your colored beads, you're going to use the golden beads, the bead frame. When your child is older, you use things like the checkerboard. You know, those are all great basic math manipulatives, but the magic really happens when we take those manipulatives and we bring them into the real world, and we're doing hands-on actual, even if they're theoretical or pretend problems. You know, here we're pretending to be the gardener, you know, and we're going to use our manipulatives to manipulate that as though we were the gardener. Here's an example of a more multi-step problem or a harder problem. A group of 15 ladybugs is released into a greenhouse to help control pests. By the end of the week, 5 ladybugs have flown away and twice as many new ladybugs have arrived. How many ladybugs are in the greenhouse now? Now, I know some of you out there are already having heart palpitations. And that's what happened to me. As soon as I heard the words, and twice as many new ladybugs have arrived, I'm like, oh wait, I just got lost. Like, I was doing this mentally. I was imagining the 15 ladybugs flying into the greenhouse, and then I was imagining 5 flying away. But now you've got this, twice as many has flown in, you know, twice as many have arrived. Like, now I'm confused. Mentally, I'm not able to have that image. You know, I'm imagining some number have arrived, but it's fuzzy, you know? And so what we're doing with our kids here is this is actually really, really good for their brains. A lot of our members, we don't actually give answers to any of these word problems, by the way, and this is kind of on purpose. We don't want you to be fixated on the exact answer that you get for the word problems.
We want you to be able to do the operation correctly.
It's good to get answers, but it's more important to do the problem solving, whether you're correct or not. Even if you get an incorrect answer and you're still working to problem solve the problem, your child is learning.
And if you're using the beads or other manipulatives, you'll get the right answer.
You're more likely to get the right answer.
Because the control of error is built in. So I love this problem too. And I remember it coming up at the community because it's inherently obscure. So when it says twice as many new ladybugs arrived, do you mean twice as many that you originally released? That's 15. Do you mean twice as many as flew away? That's 5. Do you mean twice as many that were left after the 5 flew away, which would be 10? And the answer is yes.
Yes,
right?
You could solve all of those problems.
Yeah.
And it would depend on the actual situation that your child is imagining, right?
That's
so these word problems are fun. They're meant to be played with and imagined in different ways. You're meant to play with the numbers. A great way to solve this, I think, for a lot of kids to make it really hands-on is to have something that really helps with these physical problems is to have some manipulatives. And I'll show these with you with the leaf lesson in just a minute.
Yeah.
But I just have here a little box, and inside are my ladybugs, which are just my red colored beads.
Yep.
Right, from the colored bead set. They Montessori traditional color is red for the ones. And so I just have them in this little box, and this is what I can use to solve this initial problem, right? We've got 8 or 3 or whatever, and I'm going to lay them out and solve my problem. But what takes it to the next level that makes doing this so much more interesting, that I think our members have opportunities to engage in these different ways, is to make it as hands-on and concrete as possible. So when I'm reading this, I'm reading a group of 15 ladybugs, and I'm getting out 15, my group of 15, we'll pretend like this is 15 and I've counted them out, but here they are. I don't know if our members can see it. I think they can. Here's this group. Let's say it's 15. I'm not actually going to count it, but we'll pretend it is. And then it says they are released into a greenhouse. Well, where's the greenhouse? You've got to designate something to be your greenhouse. And it could be as simple as like this napkin, this napkin is now the greenhouse, and now our ladybugs are in it. So we're making it physical and tangible, and we're seeing this is the greenhouse here. And then we're going to keep reading to help control the pests. Woo, there's lots of little pests buzzing around. Ooh, these ladybugs are yum, 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 eating all the pests. And so we're integrating a little pretend play into it as well, which kids really love. It's so much more fun and interesting than just reading a word problem and then solving the answer, which is what they probably told you to do in school when you were doing word problems. And so now we're pretend playing. They're feasting. Oh no, here, 5 of them have flown away. This one escapes. This one escapes. How many you got? 2. This one escapes. You're counting for me.
3. Oh no, now 4 have escaped.
This one escapes.
Oh, 5 have escaped.
Oh, now you've got 5. And how many are left?
Right.
Okay, now as an adult, I know that there should be 10. Because I can take 5 away. I can take 5 away from 15, but your child might not be able to yet. And so here we've got a greenhouse. It's physical. We've made it tangible and hands-on. We've got our ladybugs. They are physical. They're tangible. They're hands-on. And then it says, twice as many new ladybugs have arrived. And this is where we have to get definitive on our answer. Like, which one are we deciding? Are we saying that all 15 are all of the ones? That twice as many as that have arrived? Then we're going to get all of the ladybugs back again. We're going to count them up, and then we're going to double the number physically so that our children can see. and then we're going to put them all back into the greenhouse together with our original 10, right? And it's going to require a lot of beads.
Yeah, because in that case, you're going to have, what, 45 or something like that? Or,
Yeah. What if we had doubled, we had said twice as many new ladybugs have arrived, and that number was the 5 that had flown away? It's going to require a fewer number of beads, but essentially we'll say, well, 5 flew away, twice that, 2 times 5 had arrived. And so obviously that would be 10. We would get 10 new ladybugs. We'll leave those have all flown away, but we're going to leave them tangibly there so that our children are visibly seeing them and not just imagining them. And then we're going to physically take 10 more and put them into the greenhouse.
5 flew away. Oh, good thing we have some extras. Let's add twice as many as flew away. Well, 5 flew away.
Yeah.
Twice 5 would be 10. Let's add 10 more.
Right, come on in here, friends. Whee! Here they come. Oh.
I guess they do go.
And they're all eating the aphids. Yum, 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 yum. Okay? So this is the way we want you to do math lessons with your kids. And we actually give, this could be its own total legit math lesson just by itself that you might find in any other curriculum.
And you might then play this ladybug and aphid game several times. Like you might play it again and again throughout the week.
Yes. Yes, exactly. But I was going to say, we actually give you, how many word problems do we give you? Like 10 word problems. So you can, even though like just this one itself is a whole lesson that you might have, it might take you 10 minutes, 20 minutes to engage in this pretend play math activity with your kid. We actually give you like 10 different experiences so that you have choice, so you can pick the ones that go with the developmental readiness of your child. Preview them first, put the ones that you feel like your child will be developmentally aligned with, but then don't shy away from modeling the more difficult ones for them. All right, and I think a lot of people get tripped up with that too. So that is to say that, word problems, people think of them as a dime a dozen. Like you can go download a whole bunch of word problems or buy a book of word problems anywhere. But it actually fits itself into the Montessori framework that we are providing for you in our thematic approach. And so we're taking those basic foundational lessons and we are helping you kind of shortcut you really quickly to a very effective teaching technique for your kid. Now, those are not the only things that you can do with these word problems. We have lots of suggestions for ways to interact with them that we talk about in our courses, in both the primary and the lower L course. We give you different ways. You don't just have to use the red beads to solve this problem. What if you were to use a different Montessori math material, like
golden beads,
the bead frame?
The bead frame,
right?
Really,
Woo! That's a big one. It depends on just how concrete your child needs to be. Do you need to have a physical greenhouse? Eventually, what we're aiming for is for them to have a mental image of these numbers, these quantities swimming in and out of the greenhouses in their heads.
If you had a whole bunch of these ladybugs, you could use that for your counting. Like, it doesn't matter.
But it takes a while to get there.
It does. That's true.
So what we're trying to do, yes, you can have, if you happen to have many of these, you could, doesn't matter what your manipulatives are, it's that you are concretely manipulating quantities. But what I want to say is that your child will develop the ability to do mental math, but only through practice with concrete materials. And so that is a step that is skipped in a lot of traditional math curriculums. You can go look at the math curriculums that are offered for homeschoolers. Most of them miss this step or only introduce it like in the very beginnings of the preschool years, and then it's very quickly ditched. And they say like, okay, we're just going to jump right into solving these problems on paper. So I can't tell you like how many math curriculums do this. So it's very important whether you integrate in other math curriculum, workbooks or whatever, or whether you just stick with, what we have at Child of the Redwoods, which is plenty. What is really important is that you make sure that you are making the math concrete for a long time, for long enough until your child is able to do problems like this mentally. And when they have reached that, then you know that they have a really strong sense of numbers and operations. Does this make sense, friends? I know we have a lot of members out there, and you're kind of getting a mini math lecture in here too.
Well,
I hope that this is helpful for everyone. But comment if this resonates with you, or if you've had any experiences doing this at home, or if now you're inspired to go do more of it. Because it's not just word problems. These are entire lessons themselves.
That's exactly
okay. And it comes with this. We're including them in every unit now. So we're generating we're generating word problems that go from easier problems to harder problems, multi-step problems with every single theme. And we've been doing it for, several months now. I don't know for how long we've been doing these word problems in every one, but from here on forward, I am, because of members asked, I'm we're making word problems.
Well, they're essential to the lower L especially. So
yes.
I think in levels 3 through 6, word problems are a big part of what you're doing. You're going to learn a little bit. For math levels.
For levels 4 through 6.
Yeah, so
they're a
those,
big part of it.
Yeah, because really the way the math works is you learn one concept, like an operation, and then you use lots of things to practice it, manipulatives, word problems, and so forth. So if you like that word problem, you can download your own free pack right here. If you're already a member and you didn't do it, it's in the Ladybug unit, which is in the Constellation Library. Everybody has access to that if you're in the complete or unlimited curriculum. Go grab that pack. Now, we just showed you a little bit here. We showed you the word problem, but this actually has more than that. The word problems are just one part of this lesson. This lesson, I think the heart of the lesson is really about teaching recognizing the number itself and matching it to quantity, I think is the heart of this problem. So here we have, as is included in the pack, we have numbers 1 to 20, or maybe 0 to 20. 0 to 20. And the essential lesson is going to be, you're going to lay out your cards, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, etc., or as many as you want to handle at a time. And for a younger child, you're going to do fewer, and for an older child, you're going to do more. And you're going to then match it to, or they're going to match it to, a corresponding number of ladybugs, which we've shown you already. We are using our little red beads, 1 beads, to represent them. And so 1 ladybug on the leaf that says 1, and 2 ladybugs on the leaf that says 2, etc., etc. So this is a great lesson as it's written with the leaves and the beads. It's a great lesson for our littlest guys, like our levels, probably 2, I think, is where you might really get into this. So that would be someone who's just starting to move into mathematics, or maybe 3, 4-year-olds, and then you're going to continue forward.
Or fives as well, and
That's
sixes.
true, especially as you get to these bigger quantities, or 0. There's a whole set of lessons on 0.
I mean, this is a lesson that I would have, because it goes all the way to 20.
That's right.
So this is a lesson I would
For
have
real
been
little guys,
using.
you wouldn't go past 9, right?
Not necessarily. I mean, what do you mean by real little guys?
Like
you
a
mean
3,
like toddlers?
4, 3.
I mean, if they can go all the way to 9, so if they can go all the way to 9, then you know that they're ready for teens. And so you could just stay with 1 through 9 as a set. If you've introduced 0, you can add the 0. And then if they're ready to go all the way to 20, then you can add that to make it a little more difficult, or to practice those teen numbers. The control of error for this, which I think is a really cool point to bring up. How do we know that we got the right number of ladybugs on each leaf?
Yeah.
You have to count them out first and make sure you're only giving the number of ladybugs that goes with the numbers that you have here. So if I have 1, 2, 3, and 4 leaves here, and I'm going to put this number of ladybugs, we're just going to do a lesson with 1 through 4, right? So the way to do that is just to say, like, 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4. What's that?
10.
Okay, so we need 10 ladybugs. All right, and you're only going to put 10 ladybugs in here. This is a very common mistake that a lot of people make with math, is if you want control of error for your child to be able to check and see if they did the math correctly, you're only going to put that number that they need in manipulatives inside your container. And so here we just give them 10, and that way when if they had any extra, they would be like, oh wait, I had extra. You know, let me count again and see if I had counted correctly. Yep, here's 1 and there's 1. Here's 2, 1, 2. Here's 3, 1, 2, 3. Here's 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. You know, so they're counting and checking again. And if they end up with not enough beads, oh no, I don't have enough for the next number, then they know that there was also a mistake. And so it's up to you to verify that you've got the right number of quantity of manipulatives, and that's going to help your child to self-correct. And this is why, another reason why we're less concerned with having the right answer is because we're constantly encouraging children to self-check and to just trust, you know, if your child gets the wrong answer and doesn't do a work correctly or get the right number, you're not going to go back and say, oh, you got that wrong. Or you didn't have enough beads, let me fix that for you. You're not going to go back and say, hey, you made a mistake. Can you find the mistake? You know, you're just going to leave it and just trust that they have the ability to cross-check their own work. You know, if they're noticing that there is extras or not enough quantity, you know, and that's, I think, hard for parents.
It is. I love what you're saying. It reminds me so much of a jigsaw puzzle.
Oh yes.
Which has a specific set of pieces, and you know if you've finished it because you don't have any more pieces and there are no holes
right
in the puzzle. And so I could also see, you know, so again, this is these smaller numbers, these single-digit numbers are great for the younger kids, and then if they're really into it, you can go bigger and bigger. But by the time you're doing the whole layout, which was 0 to 20, it's going to be a huge layout.
Right.
And that's going to be really appealing to an older kid. You're going to need 210 of these beads. Now, I know that sounds like, how am I going to come up with all those beads? You can do it, I promise. They don't have to be red beads. You could come up with 210 of any.
Now wait, did you just do that math just now?
I didn't. I just looked here on the required materials list.
It says, gather your materials, and it literally says you need 210.
If you want to do the full layout. So, and I'm pointing that out because you can imagine a bowl full of your beads or whatever you have 210 of, and they lay out
kernels, pinto beans,
anything that you feel safe letting your kids use. They're going to have that great big layout, and it's going to be like putting together a gigantic puzzle because they have to count out each of the amounts and do it correctly because they won't really know until they get to the end. And if they don't have enough to finish the layout, they made a mistake, and they're going to need to go back and figure it out. And if they have extras, same thing. It's just like having an extra piece in the puzzle of the jigsaw puzzle. And those kind of big works can be really, really exciting. So have fun with it. Treat it like a puzzle, like a game, like something that is creative and fun. And if you have that attitude about it, your kids will really pick up on it as well.
Yep.
Okay, and remember, if you want your own copy of this pack, hold on. Look at this.
Da-da-da. If you're brand new to Child of the Redwoods and you are just dropping in, please go download your free sample. You get 3 lessons that go along with our constellation themes. You can fully try them out with your kids. They're great for all ages, even the ones that seem easier. I mean, try it with your older child. You might be really surprised. Sometimes they really enjoy even the most simple practical life activities. And you also get a preview of our foundational materials.
That's right.
And if you are a member and you already have access to all of these great things that we offer at Child of the Redwoods, and you have not yet done the ladybug theme, I strongly encourage you, just go and find it in your theme library. There are over 50 themes in the theme library now. I don't know the exact number, do you? 50 something.
Over 50.
Over 50, okay? Like, I mean, I guess when we get to
A lot.
when we get to 100, we'll be like over 100. But over 50 themes are in your theme library, and they are full of fun activities just like this. You are not limited when you're a member at Child of the Redwoods of the complete or unlimited plans. You're not limited by the amount of themes you can get into. You don't have to pay for each one.
Yep.
You just go into your theme library and download it, you know?
Yeah, there's something like 500 or 600 constellation lessons, like the one that we just showed you in the library, in addition to all kinds of other things like reading lists and so forth, in addition to the foundation. So there's a lot of things for you to use, and it's designed that way so that you can follow your child along their journey.
Okay. We had a great question come up in our lower L coaching session last night that I would like to bring to our little conversation here. Thank you, Pia, for asking this question. I love this question. She asks, do you think there's a limit to what we should talk about with our young children? For example, I mean, there are a lot of things going on worldwide right now that are just devastating. And she mentions this, the devastation of the world, like war, climate change, inequality. Or should we only focus on awe and wonder, as Maria Montessori, and I'll insert, seem to advise? Okay, and she says, like the great lessons do, they focus on awe and wonder of the universe and the origin of all things. She says, you know, can we do this in the context of inquiry learning if they are the ones who are inquiring about these subjects?
Yeah, so they're asking about stuff that you may not have felt comfortable
or
introducing.
should you introduce these things to your
right.
child? So we're going to give you a little insight into how we handle things as parents, because it's going to be different for every single family, what they are comfortable sharing with their children. And I'll also say that it's also very individual to the child themselves. So you may have a child who is extra super sensitive to negativity in the world. I mean, it just might be. And if you have a very sensitive child,
just naturally anxious,
you probably know it. You know, you probably know, like, you can look at your child and say, ooh, I'm looking at this group of kids at the playground. Hey, my kid seems a little extra sensitive. Like, you'll know if you have one of those. And you probably also know if you have a child who is not super emotionally sensitive to those kind of things. It doesn't mean that they're not a sensitive, you know, wonderful being.
Nope.
It just means like they have a little extra resilience around them, like a little bit of a buffer, so that those kinds of tragedies or even like upsets don't worry them as much. And so an example of this would be your child goes to the playground, has a conflict with a friend there, really takes it to heart, bursts into tears, and then the next hour or 2 hours are ruined, right? Because your child is just really trying to deal with this emotional upset. You read a picture book to your child. It's about a child that experienced a particular tragedy of the world, right? There are a lot of books written about human tragedies that are written for children that are great picture books. We recommend a lot of them in Child of the Redwoods. But your child hears this story, or maybe it's a fairy tale, you know, I don't know what it is. Something makes your child feel insecure or sad, and then they just carry that sadness around with them for, you know, a while and really ponder it. And then days later, after you thought, like, you haven't thought about this book or this friend conflict or event in a long time, but later on, days later, your child brings it up again. Remember when we read that sad story?
Yeah.
And you're like, what? Which sad story? They're like, the one about the girl who lost her shoe and never found it. And you're like, oh, that's a sensitive kid. Okay?
Or that particular topic triggered something in them at that moment. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yes. But I mean, if this is happening consistently in a variety of situations, I would say, like, that's a sign your kid is extra sensitive.
Sure.
And this is not, you know, in a scientific way. This is in an observational way. Yep. In contrast, you might have a kid where you're just like looking at them and everything seems like they seem really emotionally attuned to what's going on, but everything just rolls off their back, and they're like, they encounter a challenge and they're like have a conflict with a friend, they resolve it, they feel fine. They go right back to playing, you know, or you read a book, they become emotionally absorbed, they're concerned about what's happening, they process it, and then like it doesn't come back again as a consistent worry or thought for them. You know, your kid has a little more resilience to them, or you know, like maybe they're still emotionally sensitive, you know, on the inside, but they've just got that extra barrier around them. It allows them the extra buffer for processing these kinds of things. So I think it's important to start there, like to observe our child, to kind of have an idea of whether, you know, how much information is okay to share at a time. Because if you've got a very extra sensitive child who's constantly worrying about these things, you might consider giving them smaller bits of information that is like a tragedy at a time and letting them process it before like going whole hog into a particular situation. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, right. So I would say, I think we would say that nothing is necessarily off the table just on the face of it, right? The world is the world. There are ways to approach even very, very difficult concepts, and unfortunately, at this very moment, there are children facing the most abjectly horrible things, and they have to handle them.
Yep.
It is what it is. So on the face of it, we cannot just say like nothing is forbidden, maybe, or very little should be forbidden, right? But that doesn't mean everything is to be discussed at all times. It really is what's right.
Or in detail.
Yeah, what is right for you as a family, you as a person, your child as a person. There's what they're sensitive to or anxious about, what other tragedies or triggers they might be having in their life. Just because they get anxious about things doesn't mean that it's wrong. Like kids will practice anxiety, they will practice sadness, they will practice being scared is a part of maturation. And giving them things to kind of be scared of that are approachable is actually not unhealthy to do. So it's about finding the right balance. Now, for us personally, our rules were, of course, anything overtly sexual, of course, anything overtly violent when they were little, including real world topics.
Yeah,
so
we did not show our preschoolers the news.
We didn't show them the news.
Example.
We didn't talk about things like 9/11 or wars that were going on. We didn't, go into great detail about, let's say, the problem, like the issue of the homeless, the unhoused here in our city who are suffering from all manner of mental illness and drug abuse, right? They see it on the street, and it's very apparent if you live in a city like San Francisco that there are lots of suffering humans. We would be direct, but not overly direct. Like we would be, direct, but not overly detailed, I should say. So
until they got older.
And then when they got older, then it would be a matter of introducing maybe more factual, in a very factual way, like what is happening. Now, of course, now that they're teens and our oldest is actually now an adult, a legal adult, at least, according to the law. I don't know about the mind, but but on paper, and of course, so at that point, it changes for us. So we talk about everything openly now, and have since they were
upper L,
like 10 or 11. We really got very open about it because they live in a world that is flooded with information. And I know some parents will keep their kids off the internet. That's not our approach. We of course were mindful of what they consumed, but we also were not hyper controlling over it, because what we wanted was for them to know how to use it healthily. And in order to learn how to be healthy with it, you need to have exposure to it. And unfortunately, part of what can come through that exposure, whether they're playing Roblox or just searching the web or whatever, is exposure to a lot of horrible stuff.
Yep.
And that horrible stuff can then be put in a context that is grotesque, disgusting, exploitative, or otherwise. And so For us,
And it can be mentally and emotionally consuming.
that's exactly right.
Yeah.
So for us, it became a question of how do we let them know what's happening in a way that we want them to understand. We want to educate them on these events and experiences in the world uh, from the perspective that we as a family have. Like, what do we value? What do we think? How do we want to respond? What is our obligation? So that they have a different narrative in their mind when they then go out into the big bad world. And that was our decided approach. It's like we can't protect them from the world. We can only like enable them with some moral armor.
Yeah. Some of, our approach came from directly out of the approaches used by Kim Jong-Pain, who wrote the book Simplicity Parenting. So if you're curious about that approach, he's a Waldorfy guy, but also like really, I think, understands children very well. And so obviously, because it's from the Waldorf the Waldorf perspective, he's not pro-tech, in that respect. And so he's very, very firm about like, how about no media during early childhood?
Well, and we followed that pretty strict.
We did. And so I do remember in that book, there is a lot of conversation about how if you have very young children, you can't overload them with too much information. So that really is a trick of like observing your child, seeing how they respond to the world, listening to their questions, and answering with truth. Our children would look out the window in our in our city, just as we were driving by, see a person who was suffering on the street, and then comment about it. They would say, that person has so many blankets. Wow, so many blankets. Do you think he likes carrying his blankets around with him everywhere? He also has a shopping cart. Is he shopping? And then we would answer truthfully, oh no, that person is carrying all of his worldly belongings with him, because that person does not have a place to store them permanently, and we would just be very factual about it. Like, I wonder if they're cold, does that person look happy? No. Well, I feel sorry for that person for having to carry so much stuff with them. You could have some empathy and just keep it very real, but not go into all the details. Like maybe you're looking at that person and you're like, clearly that person is on fent, or
Yeah.
like having a mental breakdown in the middle of the road, or like maybe you're thinking all of these things that like you have the extra insight for as an adult, but it's like not the time to reveal all of this information about what your child is noticing. You're just going to focus on, yes, blankets. Let's reveal the truth about blankets. It's very cold here in San Francisco. That person looks like they are trying to keep warm.
Yeah.
And your child will take some time to process it. And over time, our children grew to have a very deep and detailed understanding of what it's like to be an unhoused person experiencing homelessness here in San Francisco. But it took a long time. Lots of little bits of information came in, and we did have the conversation about drugs and about the details about drugs. And we had personal experiences finding needles in the park and being aware of them. And there was a lot of information that was revealed over time. And our children asked lots of questions about it. On the topic of sad news that's coming worldwide, maybe you're reading the news and it's making you feel sad. Is it okay to tell your child what's making you feel sad? Yes, absolutely. No matter, even if your child is very young, your child might come up and say, Mommy or Daddy, you're crying. Why are you crying? And you'd be like, because I feel really sad. Some children have died, recently, and that makes me feel so sad that they had to die. And I wish that they were alive. And your child may ask follow-up questions, and you can answer truthfully. But they also might just want to comfort you and share the moment. And here you have just revealed a truth. Not all children get to survive. And it's a terrible truth, but you've introduced it in a way that's compassionate and truthful and loving without overwhelming them with all of the details of every particular situation that's out in the world.
And this is good. It's going to be the same advice if they're the ones bringing you the information. They get curious about something that's happening. They've overheard it. They've seen it. Maybe you did get emotional about some of it, and now they want to know more. And this is inquiry learning, right? I would say always, as with all things in Montessori, we always try to approach it from a factual perspective. These are the facts as best as we can know them. Like if you're scared of spiders, you might talk about what spiders do, and it's the same thing if you're dealing with a global catastrophe, a flood, or a mass shooting, or some other kind of terrible thing that you might be confronting as a society, as we all are confronting. And being not necessarily clinical, but factual and open. And I think when you get scared and you get worried and you start to grouse and you're like, I pay my taxes, this is what I get for all my tax money, those blankets on the street, you get all worked up. That's when the kids are going to start to ingest that perspective. And that, for good or ill, whatever it is, you're teaching them something in that.
That's right. Point. Your passions will fuel theirs.
And if you're afraid of it, if you're not angry like in my example there, but you're like afraid of it or something, that's going to fuel that too. So keeping it kind of factual helps.
So finally, I want to say that you cannot underestimate the power of literature to lead you into a lot of conversations. If you were to avoid all of the wonderful things that literature can bring you in your home, picture books or chapter books, especially at those lower elementary ages, then you might not be introducing things to your child at the right times. They will not just come up with all of the questions on their own. It's through studying and researching and learning and hearing stories that they're going to come up with the questions, or that's going to give you an opening to talk about things on your child's level. So an example with that would be like, you pick up that picture book, you read it, and then it's about a child in another part of the world, engaging in an act of suffering or challenge for them. I'm thinking we recommended one last year that was about a girl who had to carry water from the river to her village and her family because her village didn't have running water. And so it was her burden to go and walk miles to go to the water source to fill a bucket and physically carry it back to the family. That's like really heavy.
It's heavy duty stuff.
It's a heavy concept, and there's so much you could talk about in that concept. Why does this village not have running water? Why do we? Just that, is big. But these give you openings to pose questions to your child, and for your child to pose questions to you, and for you to have conversations about what you're reading about. And as your child gets towards, because I know that this is Pia and you're at the beginning of lower L, as your child gets into upper elementary, this is going to be the crux of your education. This is going to be what your curriculum is grounded on, are these deeper conversations.
Moral, ethical inquiries where they're using the factual information they've been learning for years and years and applying it to these more abstract, open-ended problems.
Yeah. So I remember our own children letting me know in subtle ways that they were ready for more information. And usually there really are like two openings for you to look for. One is that bridge between primary and lower elementary, ages like 5 to 6 or 6.5. Children start asking different questions, and they will let you know that they're ready for more. They want to start digging into those moral and ethical questions about humanity and about our social relationships with each other, and they will start leading conversations if you're offering them enough experiences in literature. And the second window is between the first, like lower elementary and upper elementary, when you are transitioning from ages 8, 9 to like right around ages 8 or 9, you might notice that your child is suddenly like wants to know more and becomes even more concerned about worldly issues, environmentalism. I remember during that age group for both of our children, they became super environmentalists, very concerned with climate change, global warming, and
animals and their health.
Yes,
and
animals and their health, and
plants,
wanting to rescue every little worm that they found. I can't tell you how many slugs our children removed from the trail in the redwoods to the side because they were so consumed and concerned with the welfare of all living things. And this is developmental, and this is normal, and it does happen during the bridge, sometime between lower L and upper L. There is a window there, and there's also a window for literature. And then I'll give you an extra preview. You have until the end of upper elementary, about age 12. And then there's another developmental shift.
Shut down.
And your child's brain will shut down.
Puberty will take over.
Yes, and so you are at the beginning. If you're at the beginning of lower L, you're at the beginning of this long, beautiful 6-year period where you will get deeper and deeper and deeper into these conversations until your child's biological hormones and body chemistry takes over.
And then all they can think about are friends and being cool. And
they become very egotistical in the same way that toddlers are really only concerned about their own environment. It's not that they don't care about what's happening in the world. It's just that all they can see in front of them.
That's the shedding period.
Yes. And so anyway, this is the big long answer to this beautiful question. Thank you so much for asking it. And again, I'm sorry I couldn't get to it in our lower L session, but I hope that you found insight in our conversation here with David.
And we had a couple comments or questions here. Crystal had asked earlier, what happens in regards to the math? She says, what happens if children don't self-correct? Do we just leave it alone?
You can. Yes, in general, you do. You would just leave it alone. But alongside your math experiences where they're doing the work on their own, you're also making sure that you are modeling things. So when you're giving the lesson, you're going to model the self-correction. And sometimes it's very healthy to sometimes make mistakes. And
I'm going to put that
in quotes because, it's not like you would do that every time you give a lesson, but maybe sometimes like intentionally mess up a little bit and then let them spot if you made a mistake, or you go back and you give yourself the opportunity to self-correct. And that will help them to cue in that they might be wanting to do the same when they do their work. But you're not going to correct their work or instruct them to self-correct.
It's certainly not in the moment. You want to let the period work through it. It's very, very tempting.
It is.
But
it's very tempting.
Avoid if you can. Okay, she also asked another question. Any tips on helping kids be more emotionally resilient? That's a great question.
Yeah.
So my thoughts on that are, first off, you are your child's first and best teacher. So how you handle stress, it goes back to my example, like, I'm also angry about all these people on the street, right? Grumble, grumble, grumble. Well, that's a cue to them on how you handle stress. Like you get angry or resentful or something. If you want to...
It's also a very you answer. I don't think I've ever grumbled about that myself in front of the kids. Like my responses would be totally different.
Totally. But anyway, that would be the... This is not necessarily a reflection of my own personal feelings. I'm just saying, whatever your attitude is, it's going to teach a lesson. So if you're wanting to teach your lesson, if you're wanting to teach the child about... emotional resilience, you just have to be open about it. Like Aubrey gave that great example of you're crying, instead of just like saying, oh, nothing's wrong, just like allergies. Really talking about it and then explaining what you'll do to feel better. Like, I'm going to want a hug, or maybe I'd like to go for a walk together. Would you come with me? Or let's go outside and smell the flower. Like whatever it is that, especially if it's something that really authentically makes you feel better and is shareable with your child, you're demonstrating to them how one handles adversity. And it's perhaps more critical. These are more critical lessons than even the math lessons, honestly, in my opinion. Another is that, I would piggyback on the idea of literature. Pick, books that nonfiction or fiction books about real life events are informative. do not overlook books that are not necessarily about real life events, that are just about expressing emotions.
Hey, there's a lot of adversity in Winnie the Pooh.
Totally. Well, I was thinking a book that I brought up many times is Bunnicula, because it was such a big book. But I loved it as a kid because it's a scary book that's not really very scary. It was great for an anxious kid like me to be able to explore being afraid in a mysterious way with these cute talking animals.
Yeah.
So those,
And that would be lower L, upper L.
that's right. It was a chapter book. But you mentioned Winnie the Pooh. Fairy tales and myths and legends often have a kind of a spooky element. Think about Hansel and Gretel. It's a pretty scary concept of the witch is going to cook the children. Like she lures them into a candy house and now she's going to cook them. It's really scary. It's if you're a little kid. Those stories have a purpose, and beyond just like teaching a moral lesson or entertaining, it also gives children a way to act out their various emotions, which allows them to practice the resilience. So showing things that are very saccharine, like I think a lot of times our children's entertainment gets very, very saccharine, and it's to a detriment. The best literature, children's literature, has a little bit of danger to it because it is real, it appeals, and it gives kids a chance to practice those emotions. So that would be another tip I would have. I don't know if anything comes to mind for you.
Yeah, I think a lot of the practical life skills that we're teaching kids help build resilience as well, because we're teaching them to do things for themselves. And so, for example, you might give a lesson on how to put a Band-Aid on, you know, or how to remain calm would be like a great grace and courtesy lesson. You know, when something happens, oh no, something happened. I'm going to breathe to remain calm. Now I feel better. You know, like those little lessons that we teach our children directly, they all work to build resilience.
Yeah. And Crystal, you're asking for specific books. I can't think of any offhand, but yes, or it's specific for the age of your child. But yeah, Grimm's, Winnie the Pooh, any of that, like the classic literature.
The Tale of Despereaux is one of my favorites, and it is definitely for like lower L, upper L ages.
But an older primary child could maybe sit and listen.
Really,
right?
anything. Well, I mean, an older what?
Like a 5-year-old.
5, maybe 5, and I mean 5 is on the cusp of LE. So yeah, like 5 and up. But it is a big chapter book, and yes, they could listen. It's more about like the concepts in the book that is more developmentally appropriate for older kids.
Who's that? Carrillo?
But that said, I read The Hobbit to our youngest when he was like 4 years, three, almost 4. And he got so much out of it and loved it.
Yeah, that's a great book.
So, you know, there is a
adventurous.
totally crossing the Montessori boundary with that one. You know, it's all fantasy. He was 3 years old, you know, supposed to be only exposed to real type of stuff. But here we were reading The Hobbit, and it was fantastic storytelling. And like, lo and behold, like he's still a kid that loves storytelling, can tell a really good story himself. And I really think like some of those things that we introduced,
exposure to that kind of stuff, really made a difference.
They did, but also you're spot on with the resilience. Well, we are kind of wrapping up, and I know we have a visitor who's coming.
I know we do. We actually got a letter, a comment for a very special furry friend of ours. So I'm going to go, Mr. Bunny. Mr. Bunny, are you here? I am ready for my close-up. Yes, indeed.
Hi, Mr. Bunny.
Yes. Well, we had a letter come in, or actually a comment from one of our members, and she said that that her and her kids are really loving the bunny perspective on the HAL activities. Oh, yes. Well, the bunny perspective is the most informed perspective possible. Yep. And, you know, it's because of this I asked you to join us. Yeah. Yeah, well, I'm happy to answer. So what the kids wanted to know was, well, first off, they were doing our HAL pack. You want to show our HAL pack there?
Sure, it's right here.
Yeah, right. Ooh, I like that one. Yep, that's our current theme. and it's all things howling, like coyotes and wolves. And
Coyotes.
they wanted to do one of the activities at the beginning of the pack, which isn't actually assigned early on. It's the coyote mask.
Oh, yes.
Yes, and that's a fun one. So they wanted to make the coyote mask. Let's see. Do we have that coyote mask?
We do.
Ooh. Did you make a coyote mask
it is.
yourself? Oh, I sure did. Oh,
Here it
yes.
is.
I made a coyote mask just like that one. I colored it and everything. Actually, I had an idea. I didn't do it yet. I thought maybe I could glue some cotton balls on it to make the fur.
Oh, that actually is a very creative idea,
Yeah.
Mr. Bunny.
Well, I am a creative Mr. Bunny, that's for sure.
You are.
Yeah. So anyway, they made this mask, and then they got curious. She
Yeah.
says, one of my kids has taken Ask a Rabbit Anything. That's me. Quite literally, and wants to know if Mr. Bunny knows what a group of coyotes is called. I tried telling her that it's easily Googleable, but she wants to ask Mr. Bunny. So, Mr. Bunny, can you answer this question? Well, first of all, you cannot trust Google nowadays. It's all overrun by AI. Your best bet is to ask a rabbit, especially a Mr. Rabbit.
Yes.
A Mr. Bunny will know better than Google, and that's why I know that a group of coyotes is called a pack.
A pack.
Yes, that's right. Just like a wolf pack.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Aw, we actually have fun activities in here all about wolf packs and coyote packs.
That's right. What do you call a group of rabbits?
Here's a wolf pack.
Ooh.
They're very similar to coyotes.
They are.
Yeah.
Yep. They're also canine, right? Yeah,
Yes.
that's right. You know what you call a pack of rabbits?
What?
A family reunion.
Is that true, Mr. Bunny?
Gotta go. Bye.
Silly Mr. Bunny.
Mr. Bunny. Well, thank you, Anjali, for sharing your family's question. I hope that answered it. Of course, you can always Google those kinds of things, but
Can.
asking your neighborhood rabbit is always more fun, I think.
I agree.
So if you have questions for Mr. Bunny or for us, you can email us. If you're in our community, you can toss it in the community. We're happy to answer it there or here in a Power Hour. Or you can email us at hello@childoftheredwoods.com, and we are happy to answer your questions or ask Mr. Bunny to join us to share some of his lupine wisdom.
Some of his lupine wisdom.
Yes.
Love you, friends. Thanks for joining us.
Bye.